Hey, what is going on? It is Crypto Bobby, and today I want to talk to you about some changes that I made to my portfolio, an update over the past couple of weeks as far as how I've heavily weighted myself in some cryptocurrencies, how I've moved out of some others, some mistakes that I've made along the way so that you can potentially learn from them, as well as some new entrants to my portfolio based upon some conversations that I had in the past couple of days and in the last evening, as well as some research that I've done on that. And then from there, I want to also reference what I think is one of the better crypto explainer videos out there. If you have not seen it yet from Ari Paul, I'll go to show it real quick and then I'll link it below as well. But getting into the discussion, I know a lot of folks out there are sometimes interested in where my head's at. And I try to do this really just in full transparency to show kind of where my head's at, where my money's at, and also to get feedback from you guys to try to show you a little bit about what I'm thinking, about what I'm doing, as well as to receive some of your feedback as far as maybe what your portfolio split is, where you might be heavily weighted, how things are going. And as I scroll down here, so I will put a link to this in both the YouTube video description as well as the podcast description. So if you're watching on YouTube or on the podcast, you should have a link to it. But it's also on cryptobobby.com/my-portfolio, and that'll take you to it. So a couple of the big updates to my portfolio in general right now. The first thing is I do remain pretty heavily weighted in Bitcoin for the time being. Right now, I'm at about 58%. Of my fiat value of my portfolio is presently with Bitcoin. So I am pretty heavily weighted in Bitcoin. Part of that is by design. Part of that is a little bit on accident. I've had a couple of really good scalp trades recently where I've made a bunch of Bitcoin, and I've just decided to keep that, hold on to that for the time being. Now, outside of the about 60% of my portfolio that is currently Bitcoin, 58.4% presently, I'm about 13.5% Ethereum for the time being, and I've reduced that a little bit and moved that into some other cryptocurrencies for the time being, just because I'm a little bit, quite frankly, unsure about how all of the instability around the Ethereum network right now is going to work with the whole CryptoKitties deal. If you're not familiar, there is now potentially the first killer application on the Ethereum network called CryptoKitties, basically Tamagotchis on the Ethereum blockchain, but it is becoming so popular that it is just basically making the entire Ethereum network completely unusable, and it's throwing a lot of cold water on the whole. Ethereum can be a world computer, or the world decentralized world computer, and a lot of kind of haters out there, or just people in general, they have a point saying, how can Ethereum be a decentralized world computer when it can't even handle the CryptoKitties game that is currently being played on it? So obviously there's scalability issues there, but I'm not sure kind of how overall Ethereum might have to deal with that. So I've reduced a little bit of my overall weight in Ethereum. That was a little bit higher, probably around 30% previously. So I've reduced some of my weight in Ethereum, in ETH right now, and I've moved it in a couple different places. Now, typically, I have maybe 5 or 6 cryptos. Right now, I have about 7. The only recent cryptocurrency that has actually moved out of my portfolio was actually Civic, CVC. And as you guys know, I like to talk about when I do well. I like to talk about when I don't do well. After a little bit of time, I got tired of seeing Civic really not do much of anything. And Civic was down and down and down, and I'll pull up the charts here and we could take a quick look at Civic. But Civic against Bitcoin was just on a daily chart, as I zoom out a little bit here, but on a daily chart, basically since its peak a while ago, was just down and down and down. It peaked back in mid-August and has really not shown much of a sign of life in comparison to Bitcoin. So I finally decided to cut bait after the ICO. I still made about 3.5x. I bought in on the ICO at 10 cents. I sold at 35 cents. But funny enough, as soon as I sold, Civic had a little bit of a run, and it bounced somewhat off the bottom here, went up to about 42 cents, and had a little nice bit of a movement basically as soon as I sold. So was it potentially the best move to sell? No, but it gave me an opportunity to put money into 2 other cryptocurrencies, which have actually done very well. and I'll talk about that in a second as well. So outside of Civic, selling Civic, and I'm not a Civic hater at all. I like Vinny. I like what Civic's doing, but I felt it was time to kind of change up my portfolio, and I had given up a lot of against Bitcoin gains over the past 3 months, so I felt it was time to finally cut bait there. But as you'll notice, I've talked a little bit in the past about my investment in Zcash, so I'm not going to kind of go over that again. Zcash hasn't been the best move either. Monero has had a really nice run recently. Zcash has basically held steady, if not gone down a bit. So Zcash hasn't been the best move. I probably should have put that money in Monero, but for the time being, I'm going to hang out and wait in Zcash. But two of the cryptocurrencies that you're seeing here, number one is VeChain. And that's actually had a really nice move today. It's popped, and I'll talk about why I made that move. And the other one is Cardano and Ethereum Classic. Both Cardano, I initially got into that trade. I made about 300%. I exited that trade, and I've let Cardano cool off a little bit, and I re-entered it in a small position. So that's where I'm at right now at about 4% with Cardano. But on the other end of the spectrum, Ethereum Classic, I've also started to build a small position in Ethereum Classic, and I'm looking to increase that as time goes on. And I still have some of my OMG, which I haven't sold. Got that around $1.50. It's up to almost $10 now. So hanging on to OMG for the time being. But the one that I do want to talk about as well is VeChain. And this is something that really hadn't done a ton of research on. And in a meetup last evening, I have started to just grow my crypto network in New York, and that's been, to be honest, really, really awesome, and I've enjoyed it. And a couple guys that I know, a former colleague of mine and somebody else that is pretty big in the crypto space, put together a meetup, and it was awesome. It was a small group of people. It was like 10 guys basically sitting in a conference room, eating pizza, drinking beer, and nothing crazy, nothing fancy, but talking about what they're doing in the crypto space, how they got into crypto, how long they've been in the space, and then what they're most interested in now. Some people are very much interested in ICOs. Some people are really interested in technical analysis. Some are interested in marketing. Some are software engineers, developers working at crypto startups. Some are trying to get into the space. But it was a really interesting, out of the 10 different people there really wasn't one person that was doing the exact same thing as somebody else. So it was awesome to get a bunch of varied experiences. And one person there was the individual that about a month ago told me to get into Cardano, and that was about to make a big move. I did my own research after that. I liked what I saw, made a 300% trade thanks to the one guy at that meetup. And then last night, one of the guys there was really, really passionate about VeChain, saying this is going to be the next big one to make a move. This is what you want to keep an eye on. They're about to have a rebranding. They are competitive, if not better than Walton Chain in terms of what they're trying to do with RFID technology, and they have a partnership with, I believe, PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, Big Four accounting firm. And so I did my own due diligence on VeChain. I ended up entering a small, a decent-sized position this morning, actually. I wouldn't say small, but a pretty decent-sized position this morning. And as I'll pull up the charts here. Lucky that we had the meetup last evening, because as I will pull up on the 1 hour charts here. But basically, as soon as I woke up this morning, I had to wait for the Bitcoin. I wanted to buy into this last evening. The withdrawal from GDAX took like 3 hours, so I ended up making a move this morning. Luckily, I made the move at about 8 a.m. this morning, so I bought into VeChain at about 0.00043 VeChain per Bitcoin, and that immediately went up as soon as they tweeted something. So basically from here to here, ended up making a quick 20% on this. I've decided to, initially took a little bit of profit and then bought back in a tiny bit lower, but I've decided to hold on to this one for the time being, see if this might be a continued run and what VeChain might have to offer. And a lot of this is surrounding a rebranding that they're going through. Apotheosis, which is actually what this guy was talking about last evening. So pretty interesting stuff. The one big takeaway from that, at least for me, is that there are an incredible number of smart people in the space, and you got to put yourself out there to learn from these people, because there are so many people out there that are doing a ton of research, like hours and hours of daily research, like basically dedicating their almost dedicating their lives to this stuff and trying to find the next crypto. And whether it's somebody doing technical analysis, or in this case, the person who was really positive on VeChain is somebody that would look for more social cues as far as Twitter growth, the number of the activity in the Reddit, in the specific subreddit, how the website is performing, how the team itself, kind of doing all the due diligence around a company from a social signal perspective and not necessarily from a technical analysis perspective. But everybody has something that they can offer, and I think it's really important to try to put yourself out there both in person and online to meet as many people as you possibly can, to learn from as many people as you possibly can. Because for me personally, it's enabled multiple trades so far just in the one group that I've started to get to know and I've started to meet up with a bit. So I would highly recommend that you try to take the time. If there is a meetup group in your area, join it. Be social, even if you're not a social person. If there isn't one and you live in Fargo, North Dakota, start one. See what's up. See if you can start one. I'm sure there are people in Fargo, North Dakota that are interested in Bitcoin, interested in cryptocurrencies, and probably some people that you can learn from there as well. So definitely something to keep in mind. And that's really just a summary of the portfolio in general. When you go to the website too, you can just see I have a little link to the widgets on CoinMarketCap, so you can take a look at all the crypto that I'm currently in. And in addition to that, so two other cryptocurrencies that were talked about a bunch, that were mentioned pretty frequently as well, that I am not currently in on, but if I'm able to build a position, I'm looking to do so. But 0x as well as AirSwap, both of which have cooled down a little bit recently, and I'm evaluating hopping into in the very near term. A couple of the folks there were pretty adamant about a short-term spike in the near future on both 0x and AirSwap. So I'm looking at both of those cryptos. I don't have a position in them now, but two cryptos that, just for your information, that I thought amongst a group of very intellectual people, they were talking about as places that they're making big bets on, both AirSwap and then 0x, ZRX, if you're not familiar with that one. So outside of that, looking at the crypto markets in general right now, Bitcoin coming up on $12,000. So that's something you're going to want to keep an eye on, over five, pretty incredible, almost over 5% on the past day in terms of the US dollar. Monero also having a pretty incredible run in the past day. But looking at Bitcoin, and again, if you aren't too familiar with a lot of the information on the futures, check the video from yesterday. But I do think that this is going to have, the futures market is going to have a really strong potential to affect the price of Bitcoin, both positively or negatively in the future. But if you are still new to the crypto space, or if you are just interested in hearing from a really intellectual person, I would highly recommend this video. I tweeted it the other day. I would highly recommend this video. This is from Ari Paul, who is the Chief Investment Officer at Blocktower Capital, and talking about why that there is value in cryptocurrency, why there's value in Bitcoin and some of these other networks. It's a 5-minute video. I'll play the first I'll play the first 20 seconds here just to get a flavor for it. But the way he speaks is so eloquent and straight to the point. I wish I had half the clarity of Ari when he does speak. So I think this is honestly one of the better videos from a valuation perspective and understanding cryptocurrency and the distinct ways in which there is value. So if you are new or if you've been around the space for a while, regardless, 5 minutes, extremely well spent. I'll play the first 30 seconds or so.
I'm Ari Paul, CIO of Blocktower Capital, and this is why there's value in cryptocurrency.
Why do you fundamentally believe that there is value in this cryptocurrency world?
So there are quite a few use cases. I think the biggest and clearest and easiest to understand is as a store of value that can't be censored and is resistant to seizure. And so the really clear example of demand for this that I see is the offshore banking system, which is roughly $20 trillion today. And it's not just people trying to dodge taxes. Apple, Amazon, every billionaire on the planet has wealth stored there. And firms like JP Morgan collect fees to offshore law-abiding citizens' wealth.
So that's, I think, like I said, I'll put a link to it below so you can take a look at it. It'll be in the description, but I think it's honestly one of the better videos, one of the better 5 minutes you can spend to just better understand crypto, as well as even going into some of the information in regards to the number, the amount of institutional money that is in the cryptocurrency space, the number of family offices, the largest family offices in the country that are looking to invest in the cryptocurrency space, so that you can have a better understanding of things and that you can really get a feel for where and how things might grow, because there's still so much money that is looking to get exposure to Bitcoin, to cryptocurrency, because of the outsized returns. And if you play it right if these pensions, if these endowments, if these family offices, if they use a smart strategy in terms of the size of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in their portfolios, it's something that has the risk reward there is so significantly great in the favor of the rewards that it's something that they're all considering and they're all actively looking at. And somebody like Ari Paul is, again, the chief investment officer over at Blocktower Capital. That's somebody that kind of is in that space and really is talking to those people on a daily basis. So I highly recommend you check out that video. Outside of that, guys, really just wanted to pop in, talk a little bit about where my head's at in the overall space right now, how my portfolio is updated, as well as give you a little bit of a feel for kind of where I'm looking to go and some of the other things that are on the horizon in the near future, so you can get the best feel for things as possible. If you have suggestions as far as potential cryptocurrency to take a look at, if you have something like a VeChain that you are super passionate about, not that I'm personally super passionate about it, but I know people that are, and they were able to purvey that passion onto me and I was able to do my own research, kind of quantify that, make a specific bet. I would love to hear your own thought process, where your head's at now, what are some cryptos that you have in mind that may or may not do very well in the near future. And as always with this and with my portfolio as a whole, do your own research. Just because I have money in a portfolio, in a cryptocurrency, does not mean you should just go out and blindly buy that. So do your own research. Make sure that it is something that works for you. And as always, this isn't specific financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, so keep that in mind. This is just for transparency purposes, so that you can stay as educated as possible, and so that I can help you, help to show you kind of where my head's at, and also learn with you as I go through and be transparent as far as my wins, losses, and things like that. I am looking to do a crypto happy hour YouTube live this evening, so hopefully be maybe 8 p.m. or so. So if you can stick around, definitely do that. Also, hit the subscribe button, the notify bell. Crypto Bobby signing out. Peace.